Hi guys, this is David, and today I went to GameStop. I really haven't been there probably in about a couple of years now. I think the last time that I went was whenever I went to pick up Tales of Berseria, but I do kind of like going because it does remind me of my childhood. There's just something about like the thrill of discovery whenever you head into a game store, but today there was no thrill there to be had. There were two salespeople there, and they're just doing their jobs. It is what it is. I don't blame them at all. I blame the company and their policy. But I was greeted. That was fine. And I just said, oh, I'm just browsing. What are you browsing for? And I was like, I'm just looking at games. What kind of games? Well, I'm just looking to see if you have any RPGs. Well, what RPGs are you looking for? We have these new games out and blah, blah, blah. Like, he wouldn't leave me alone. This went on for a good 3 or 4 minutes, and I was the only customer in the store. And I'm just like, come on, just let me browse. So the guy finally leaves me alone, and I'm looking at the games, or lack thereof. It's kind of unfortunate what's become of the place. I just kind of looked around, and it was pretty stark. It wasn't the way that it used to be even just 4 or 5 years ago. I'm looking at the racks of the games, and most of the games were faced out. They weren't faced side by side. There was just not a whole lot of games to really even look at. Anyway, well, I did look. I heard the radio, or what even passes as the radio in there, which is some sort of advertisement commercial broadcast thing. And I said to Ken, you know what, I would go insane if I had to listen to this all day long, and Ken agreed with me. He was like, this is just the worst. I couldn't believe that they weren't even just playing music there. I mean, the littlest thing just to help you browse or give you some sense of ambiance or peace, you can't have that there. They have to bombard you with advertisements at all times. Another thing that I noticed was the only games that they actually had were for the PlayStation 4, the Xbox, and the Switch. There was no PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, there was no Wii U, there was no DS, no 3DS, nothing. And there wasn't even any used Switch games. All of the games were brand new, except for a little tiny bit of PlayStation 4 games. And it's not because they didn't have any room. There was plenty of room. The place was wide open. And believe me, they had tons of room for all of their stupid accessories and accoutrements for the games, the various socks and hats and little dolls and everything else that wasn't related to gaming took up half the store. I remember whenever it used to just be kind of packed to the gills. Like, there would be baskets to rummage through. There'd be $5 and under baskets. Like, I remember going to the mall as a teenager in the 90s. And there was an electronics boutique there was a GameStop, there was a software, etc. And all of those stores would have like every single system. You would have NES, SNES, the Sega systems, PlayStation 1, all kind of commingled together. There would be various, sections. Each wall would have their own system, but that's the way that it was, and there was just so much stuff. Back when they would even push the baskets out of the store into the hallway. And, they just had so much stuff they couldn't even fit inside the store. And now there's just like all this open room. And it really is just not fun. It wasn't a fun experience. And I know that sales are moving towards online, and I completely get it. And I am guilty of that. I order online as well. But again, there's just something about going to the store and physically seeing the game that you want to do every once in a while. But whenever they make it so unfun, it's just not a good experience. I remember as a child, or I guess as a teenager, I picked up Suikoden, Wild Arms, and Beyond the Beyond, all three of them for $15 from one of those little rummage bins in GameStop. So yeah, that's just like a thing of the past now. Whenever I got to the checkout counter, I talked to the guy and I said, hey, do you have any DS or 3DS games? And he goes, well, I can print you out a list of those games because we keep everything in a drawer right now. And I said, oh, well, why do you do that? And he said, oh, because they take up too much room. And I'm thinking, again, there's so much room. What are you talking about? He opens up the drawer, and every single game was loose. There was no packaging, no instruction manuals, nothing. They were all completely loose, and I think that that's what he meant by taking up too much room. Packaging is not disposable, people. Like, back in the day, whenever I was a kid in the 80s, I remember ripping open video games, the NES games, and you would rip open the boxes even, because back then, I guess people just thought that they were disposable. I know I did, either that or I was just a dumb kid. But nowadays, they're made out of plastic, they're not disposable. And we really should be holding on to that kind of stuff. That just completely devalues it as far as I'm concerned. If you take away the instruction manual, if you take away the case, what's the point in buying it? In fact, I went there and I purchased this, Final Fantasy XII, The Zodiac Age, and I purposely just bought it because it came in this steel-cased box. This is what I wanted. I would not have bought this if it didn't come in this particular case. So that just shows you how important these sorts of things are for me. And then, of course, he asks about the product protection plan, which, does anybody sign up for that? Like, seriously? He asks about the membership, which I have let expired probably a decade ago. I remember it used to be free. You would get a Game Informer magazine mailed to your house. You would get like a 10% discount on used games. I don't think that they give you any of that stuff anymore, and it used to just be free. All you had to do was give them your phone number and your email, and then you get like spam emails or something from them, but hey, it was worth the 10% discount. But you just don't get that anymore. And there was just a simpler time of going to game stores, and I guess I'm just kind of waxing nostalgic on it, but I did want to share with you my experience. And speaking of waxing nostalgic, didn't GameStop announce a couple of years ago that they were going to start selling retro games, that they were going to start selling SNES games or NES games or PlayStation 1 games, things like that? There was no retro games there to be had. I mean, hell, there was barely even any modern games there to be had. So I don't know what they were talking about there. I've checked on the website, and they have retro games on there, but every single one is sold out. Only a scant few are actually available for sale. So that just seems to be a thing of the past as well. I mean, I rarely go into GameStop, but I just thought that I wanted to share my experience with you guys. What is your experience with GameStop? Please let me know in the comments, and also if you work for the company, let me know what you feel about it as well, because I couldn't imagine working there. I think that just listening to that broadcast radio thing on repeat for 8 hours would be enough to just drive me crazy. So yeah, what do you guys think? What do you think of GameStop, and what was your experience there? Have a good day.